Today's guest of the Aden Conversation is the well-known political scientist Ramiz. Mr. Ramiz, as our president said, would welcome to your homeland. Thank you. Nice to see you. With respect. We saw it with determination. Recently, there have been several important events, including a major global conference that caught my attention. You participated in the conference of think tanks. You also asked a question to our president, and there were interesting discussions there. Personally, what were the most memorable and intriguing issues for you at that event?
Mr. Elda is so, as you know, there is a saying by the Russian historian Vasily Klyuchevsky, who said 100 years ago that history does not teach, it punishes. Learning the lessons of history and participating in this event was very important for me, because there, when I addressed a question to the president, the questions from the participants showed that in all his answers, this red line of that instructive lesson was present. The issue that is voiced is a truth that we, as the Azerbaijani people, as a community and as a state, have experienced. We also have this lesson as individuals. We have understood well which lesson it refers to. Personally, for me, it is about recent history, because after the collapse of the USSR, the bipolar world no longer existed. And the unipolar world had not yet formed. It seems that we all automatically accepted it. And the main ideology of that unipolar world was the leftist liberal ideology. As I say, after the collapse of the USSR, the West, and primarily, of course, America and its representative Bill Clinton were involved. At that time, the US president entrusted Boris Yeltsin with this leftist liberal ideology. It reached the entire post-Soviet space, including Azerbaijan itself, and we who were young people at the time. We participated in the national movement in Barda, and we sincerely believed in these words: freedom, human rights, sovereignty, territorial integrity, and so on are beautiful words. But when we voiced these words and went to rallies, what was the result? Karabakh was lost, our lands were lost, and we had 1 million refugees. In September 1992, they made amendments to Article 9.7 and labeled us as aggressors, even though it was Armenia that did not face such actions against them. Then the issue with Abkhazia that happened to Georgia, the situation with the Val region, and the Nestor issue in Moldova inevitably raised questions. It so happened that my fate led me to leave here and go to America, and living in America, I was no longer so naive. I understood what happened to Georgia in 2008, and to my close friend, Mikhail Saakashvili, and even today the West remains indifferent to his fate, which has led to this situation. Because for them, they did not support him. As with Georgia, it happens that by advancing with this ideology, as a banner, no results were achieved. They even blamed him, claiming he started the war, of course. After that, what happened again? At that time, Obama and Biden were already in power in the West, and they went into this reset deal under that name with Moscow in 2009 regarding the Nord Stream 1. In 2014, the Crimea and Donbas issues emerged again, and once more, Ukraine, which has written into its constitution and concept the clear intention of Euro integration and joining NATO, was involved. This was the forefront of the leftist liberal ideology, both in Georgia and Ukraine, as seen today. In the last 3 years, what games have been played with Ukraine, this aggression, this war, transformed into a broader form at the Baku meeting in 2014. And today, who stands behind Ukraine? They say no one, that they will support Ukraine. But who needs it more, Europe or America? Not Ukraine. Ukraine demands something else. In this matter, they wrote those demands into the Constitution, saying, we moved forward, but you did not come to support us. I want to draw attention to another issue. In these matters, you are completely right.
This question is not only about foreign policy, but also creates significant problems within states for the liberal platform ideology. You live in America, in the USA. In the US, society is already tired of those leftist ideology carriers. and the people are starting to throw out the Biden administration. They are beginning to vote for other forces, and this process is also happening in Europe, growing stronger year by year.
That is, this ideology causes very serious harm, not only in international relations, but also within the country, creating significant problems. You are absolutely right now. We also take lessons from this, and preventively, even before America, we address those organizations with resources of that ideology. Whether it's the Voice of America or not, it has been the chairman of the American Democratic Party. That Democratic Party has also been the mouthpiece of those leftists. Radio Liberty, with whom I had many major conflicts since the start of the Second Karabakh War, would not allow us on the air because their ideology and our stance do not align. And they told us that we are undermining the very foundation of democracy and freedom. Now, however, America itself is renouncing this, despite having created this ideology. These resources made a mistake and tested this, and it ended up affecting Europe itself. Now, if America itself is renouncing this, and its 77 million people voted for it, half of America supported this. If it wasn't Donald Trump, another Donald Trump would come in the future to fulfill this social demand. Now look and see why our conversation is instructive. Do you understand? We have done this preventively ahead of everyone else, and look at the successes we have achieved. We have also liberated Karabakh and restored our territorial integrity. Georgia cannot do this. Moldova cannot do this. Ukraine cannot do this, which means that Azerbaijan was standing in the right position, not pro-Russian, not pro-Iranian, not pro-Western, nor pro-Chinese, but simply pro-Azerbaijani. We need to elaborate on what this Azerbaijani stance is, and at that university on the island, those questions directed at the president. Personally, my question was about uncertainty. I wanted to say that at that time, this ideology, how was it against us? I posed it as a continuation of the question addressed to the president in Shusha, because before that, there was already a pre-election competition. It was going on, and diplomatically, it showed that it was easier for us to work with the Republicans. But now, the Republicans have been in power for 3 months, and I was curious to see if his expectations were correct. And he openly stated that the truth is, the president says that. Yes, we no longer receive an anti-Azerbaijani atmosphere from the State Department in the media because they have shut down the media. It doesn't come from there today, but this doesn't mean that. Everything has already ended at Simmer 7, because there, those leftists who are truly against Trump are still standing. Their capabilities and resources are significant. Some forces in Europe can support them. However, they have truly gone bankrupt. It is very interesting that today we not only need to promote this, but also set an example. When it comes to Ukrainian channels, we have sat together like brothers with representatives of Georgia at this university, both those representing the government and those against the government, on a single base with minor assistance. I said that for us, for Azerbaijanis, it doesn't matter who is in power in Georgia today. The most important thing for us is that since Shevardnadze, we all have been following this line and supporting it. Therefore, we do not want anyone to divide Georgia from within, but the forces of those parties, the followers of that leftist liberal ideology, whether it be in Georgia, Moldova, or Ukraine itself. We must take this lightly for them. We should set it as an example. And again, at that conference, my question regarding US-Azerbaijan relations was related to this, meaning, and when the president said that indeed today there is very close contact between our teams. This means that we can detail these days that the leading country in this region, Azerbaijan, inevitably influences the ongoing processes. The presence of Azerbaijan is very important these days. Let's not be naive. There's an issue here for America. We cannot say that they are enemies against us, but the encouraging thing is that they no longer act against us. If we want them to be closer to us, these truths must be conveyed by those teams, those in the performance, and us, the experts, the media people. We must say these things day by day, because indeed when they look at us, the foreign guests participating in these events, let there be a Georgian representative in Paris. When there are representatives from Moldova and Ukraine, they will see that Azerbaijan's position in these ongoing geopolitical processes is indeed very correct today. Previously, there were 3 strategies for the 3 states in the South Caucasus.
Georgia was aligned with Europe and the US, integrating into the Euro-Atlantic space. Armenia was aligned with Russia, while Azerbaijan was independent. Experience showed that the best path was through Azerbaijan, and what is happening now? In Armenia and Georgia, Georgia is trying to distance itself a bit from the European American bloc. It is taking a step back for a more independent policy, while in Armenia, they have taken a step back from the Russian bloc. So even if they don't officially declare it, both Armenia and Georgia admit that Azerbaijan chose the best strategy at the right time.
Choosing at the right time is also a very important issue. You mentioned this, Margi, because separating later is always more difficult. Thank God we were able to do this. On one hand, this might seem like a topic, because in history, when the president answered this question, I said it. Successful dressing and bringing Azerbaijan as an example in matters like the Russia-Ukraine war. When the question was addressed, he said, if you think Ukraine will agree with this, then I don't understand politics. Ukraine never agreed to this, and all the channels that didn't agree with it were removed by the president. If they come, of course, they openly said that the Azerbaijani president is completely right in this position and this past nation. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. Azerbaijan has been on this path for 26 years as a subject of negotiations within the Minsk Group framework. And what happened? Where those leftists who pushed us forward, they sold us out. Now, so today we must say this to our Ukrainian friends, to our friends in Georgia. We should have said these things. There is no need to become a hostage to ideology. You just need to know what you are fighting for. We have fought in Azerbaijan. We have fought in the mountains of Karabakh. We have liberated this. So if we have liberated this and gone down this path, it means this path is correct. If you do not follow this path, no one will ever return those lands to you. Look at Azerbaijan and take a lesson from it. Thank you for the conversation, and I thank you too. May God protect our Azerbaijan.